How's it going today, guys? This is the Football Frame of Mind podcast, man. We got a bunch of exciting stuff. My name's Brandon. That's my co-host Cam. We've got all kinds of cool content for you guys in regards to we have a bunch of, I think we have a couple of top 10 lists with quarterbacks and Super Bowls, as well as some draft recap from our favorite teams, as well as some big announcements and sponsors and stuff like that. But before we go any further, how's it going, man? What we got today?
Hey man, it's all good, man. We're good. Happy to be talking ball with you. So we are just happy to be doing our first real live stream, man. So it should be interesting to see, how it goes. We trying different things, man. Trying to get more professional out here. You feel me?
Just a little something.
Yeah. But yeah, man, just some top lists, man, top 10 lists, and we're doing some draft recap too of our respective teams, and yeah, that's what we're doing, man. So, but like I said, man, you kick off the intros, bro.
Cool. So we usually get into sponsors at this point, but if you guys haven't checked out our most recent video on the channel on YouTube, definitely go check it out. There was a big announcement on there, but we're just going to touch base on it right now. We recently signed a contract with College Football Dogs. If you guys are not aware of who College Football Dogs are, they're an upstart, really popular company right now. They're doing all kinds of sports podcasts, sports articles, mainly football right now, but they're starting to branch out into baseball and all that as well. And they've been so gracious to give us an awesome opportunity to widen our platforms, to be able to use their platform, and to possibly help get them over the hump as well as them help us elevate to an even higher standard as well. So if you guys are interested in sports talk, football talk, you like reading sports articles or anything like that, we'll leave a link and whatever we need to do. Definitely check them out. Show your support. They're a bunch of really cool guys, and we're really excited to be working with them. So shout out to College Football Dogs, and let's move into our sponsors, man. One of our sponsors today, man, that we're going to be talking about is going to be BetUS, man. If you enjoy sports gambling at any capacity, they are the spot to be in. Basketball's finishing up. Baseball's in full swing. I think the Stanley Cup playoffs are going on right now. If you're interested in getting on betting on those, definitely check them out. They can take care of all your needs. We'll leave a link in whatever video to make sure you guys can get some free bets, exclusive promos, stuff like that as well. One of the oldest sports books on the market, man. Check them out. And if you are struggling with gambling addictions of any capacity, check them out. They do have assets to be able to help get you with that taken care of as well. And our other sponsor, man, don't forget about Off the Ball Network. We've been with them for pretty much, I think, since the beginning, if I'm being completely honest. Another group of really cool guys, man. They talk everything sports, from football, baseball, basketball, hockey, even so much more. I think they do NASCAR, too, if I'm not mistaken. Definitely check them out as well. They are constantly putting out content on the main channel as well as all of the other content creators' channels. We'll leave a link for their channel as well. But let's get into the video. So we are doing a couple of top 10 lists. They are both in regards to quarterbacks, maybe that didn't win a Super Bowl and other circumstances like that. But I kind of like Cam's idea for his, so I would really love to hear your list first.
All right, man. Now, without further ado, let's get into the list, man. So, like I said, my list is going to be different. I didn't want to do a top 10 list because I figured, since if you ever watch this program, you know that me and Brandon are literally the same damn fan, bro. Like, we'll have the same list almost to a T. So I was like, okay, well, let me do a list of top 10 quarterbacks that didn't win a Super Bowl that would have affected their career, their legacy afterwards, right? So it'd be 10 of the best quarterbacks that don't have a Super Bowl, but a Super Bowl would change your perspective of them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see where you're going to go from here. I think that's a really cool side to take, not normal perspective.
Okay, so we good. All right, so the first person on my list, man, as I find in my Rolodex. All right, the first player on my list, man, is Otto Graham, man. All right, so
kudos.
So Otto Graham, man, let's just talk about him, bro. So this guy played in an era way before, NFL was even existing, and he has a lot of NFL championships, but not any Super Bowls, right? But put this in context, being one of the founding fathers of the forward pass. I mean, you have a guy that won a bunch of championships, all pros, everything, right? But I think he would be held in higher regard had he got a Super Bowl, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's okay. It's okay because he's still a legend. He's still a legend. But at the same time, had he got in a little bit later, which is not his fault, just born too early. But I think his legacy would have been drastically different had he got a Super Bowl. So that's number 10 on my list, man. So
Okay, I like
the
it.
next one on my list, man, is controversial, and I think you're gonna like it the way it is controversial, man. So um, it's gonna be tight, man. I'm telling you, you're gonna like this one, man. After I get through this. All right. So the next one on my list, man, is Drew Bledsoe, bro.
Oh, okay, I like it. I
Okay.
like it. Very
Okay.
stuck
So,
on.
all right. So to put this into context, man, Drew Bledsoe, man, he does have a Super Bowl. Let's be honest, he does. But he was not the starting quarterback of
Mm-hmm.
that Super Bowl. It's a big difference from being the guy and then the backup to the guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he got the Patriots to the Super Bowl in, what was that, 96,
Against
right?
Green Bay.
Yeah, so he was the man. He was the man, right? Before Tom came along, but he was the guy, man, and he held it down in New England for a very long time, man. So the fact that if he would have won that Super Bowl, would we even have that conversation to pull him? Would
Probably not.
see what I'm saying? So that conversation, in my opinion, needed to be had, and as far as on my list, because I felt like he was the man, dog. Like he was a prototypical pocket passer, man. He was like 6'5". He could do everything you needed to do. He was just that good, right? But had he won a Super Bowl, that coming into that season after he got hurt wouldn't have even been a question mark, Wouldn't have been a question mark if we gonna start Drew Bledsoe. He's our guy. He got us our first ring. You gotta respect him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it would have increased his trade value as well. I don't think he goes to Buffalo if he has a Super Bowl ring. I think he goes somewhere else because somebody would be willing to give him, the opportunity to, help them out as well. So I think a Super Bowl as a starting quarterback would have helped him a lot, man, a lot.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
yeah, so that's number 9 on my list, man. Let's see. All right, so my next one, man, as I get up out of this Drew Bledsoe thing. All right, so number 8 on my list is, a little bit controversial too. But you'll see where I'm going with it, man. So number 8 on my list, man, Michael Vick, bro. All right, so put this into context, man. Look, Michael Vick was probably the most electrifying player in college NFL history. And you have a player that is new. He's new to what the old guard was looking for, looking at. Like, oh, we don't need to run. Oh, we don't need to run, But he was so electrifying in the things that he did that had he won a Super Bowl, this wave of quarterbacks mobility would have happened way sooner. Because believe it or not, the NFL is a copycat league, man. Look at any team that was dominant within, a stretch. The 85 Bears, everybody wanted to kind of run a scheme like them.
Yep.
You're looking at the greatest show on turf. Everybody tried to get receivers with quick release, with a quick release quarterback. You know what I'm saying? And then you look at the Legion of Boom on defense, man. After they won that Super Bowl or had that stretch of really good seasons, guess what happened? Everybody tried to get a 6'5" secondary across the board. Everybody tried to do it for at least 3 or 4 years. Everybody tried to get them one, and it just don't work like that. You just can't have a Cam Chancellor back there. Everybody don't hit like that. You know what I'm saying? You can't have a Richard Sherman back there all the time. Everybody ain't like that, you know? So that's how I feel with Michael Vick being on this list, man. Because if he got a Super Bowl at the height of his powers, man, the league would be a whole lot different, man. It'd be a lot of dudes that got drafted that they would be more willing to work with if he had won, you know, or rather than try to change his game set, you know what I'm saying? Change his skill set. They would have been willing to build around a player like that had he won a Super Bowl. Because one thing about the NFL, man, is that if it's successful, they'll copy it. If it's not successful, then it's like, oh, it really didn't work, you know? So I feel like that type of thing, it would have helped a player like Vince Young out. It would have helped a player. I'm trying to think of somebody like let's see. It probably would have helped a player like Justin Fields out today. You know, a player that is not a all around runner like Michael Vick was, but that speed and skill set had Michael Vick won would have helped a player like that today. And Lamar Jackson, the same thing. Lamar Jackson is kind of carrying the torch for Michael Vick as far as trying to say, like, hey, these quarterbacks that are dual threat in nature can really affect the game. You know, all they need is a chance. They don't have to play receiver. They don't have to play running back. They don't have to do any of that. They can really affect the game if you want to win, you know? So, yeah. So that's number 8 on my list, man. A little bit of a rant, but at the same time, man, it's warranted, man. All right. So number 7 on my list, man. You're going to like this one. You're going to like this one, man. You're going to like this one, man. So, Tony Romo, man. Tony Romo, man. So, all the jokes, everything about Tony Romo, man. If he won a Super Bowl in Dallas with the teams they had, it would have been a dynasty. Okay.
If they would have won one, they would have been one Super Bowl for sure.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. If they would have won a Super Bowl, I guarantee it would have been crazy good, man. Crazy good, you know? So I'm sitting here wondering, you know, it's like, oh man, so what would a Super Bowl do for Tony Romo, man? Look, it would have stopped all this choke artist talk. I mean, dude, he was nice, man. He was nice. And people forget that because he lost in the playoffs a lot. But when you look at the numbers, man, the guy was an assassin out there, man. He could throw off a platform, man. His play action was great. I mean, and he had weapons to boot too, man. He had some really good weapons out there, man. On offense and defense, man. He had weapons everywhere. Them Dallas Cowboys defense were really good, man. But I feel like if he got a Super Bowl, man, people wouldn't even be scratching the surface off of how good Tony Romo would have been, man. So, like I said, that's number 7? Number 7, yeah. Gotta keep track. All right, number seven, man. So Tony Romo, if you're out there, man, keep doing that good work on television because he the truth on that one. He winning Super Bowls on that. Ain't nobody
he be calling the freaking plays before they freaking run them.
Yeah, ain't nobody touching Tony Romo on the TV, man. He winning Super Bowls on that, man. All right. So the next player on my list, which is number 6. Now this one, I personally thought he was gonna win 1, maybe even 2. But it's Carson Palmer, bro. Carson Palmer, man. So let me tell you, Carson Palmer, man, was the truth, man. All right. Like, he really had a bad experience with the Bengals, man, with them being cheap, 1. And then 2, the fact that he had some injury issues too, you know. But those teams was bad. Those teams was bad early. It was real bad. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't get the first overall pick being good. You know what I'm saying? So that's how you get Carson Palmer, man. But all that being said, man, it's a quarterback with almost 300 touchdown passes, man. Over 45,000 yards, man. Like if you add a Super Bowl to that, that's a Hall of Famer, hands down. We're not even talking about it, man. So that's a player that I think really needed one to separate himself from the pack, right? Because it's a lot of good quarterbacks that played in our era that necessarily are all grouped up in one. You know what I'm saying? So you got Eli Manning kind of in that group, but he got Super Bowls, right? Don't have the stats, but he got Super Bowls. So I group them all in there. You got a player like Ben Roethlisberger, kind of similar stats, but he got the Super Bowls, right? So who gets elevated? You know what I'm saying? And then you got Phillip Rivers too, all grouped up in there, almost like more than 300 touchdowns. You know what I'm saying? But all their stats kind of look similar at some point if you take them and put them all in the same sample size, right? But the thing that separates all those guys is the rings, man. So whoever has the rings, man, really gets in there, But it's really, like I said, my list is just like these players need respect on their name, and Carson Palmer is one of them, man. Dude was a gamer, dude was a baller, and the numbers back it up. If he had a ring, he'd be in the Hall of Fame way faster than you think. So that's number 6, man. So number 5 is an old school guy, man. I had to do my homework on this dude. But man, Dave Krieg, man. Dave Krieg, man, from he played with Seattle for a long time. But dude, his numbers speak to a player that has a case, right? Because he has a case for being in the Hall of I guess his legacy would be a lot more remembered, man, had he won in Seattle, right? So they're an expansion team anyway. So when you have a team that is an expansion team anyway, you have to be able to build something with them, right? But the fact that he was able to amass over 35,000 yards, man, and he had well over 200 touchdowns, man, lets you know that the guy was out there slinging it, man. And I feel like had he won a Super Bowl in Seattle at that particular time, it would have helped him a lot, and he would be remembered a lot more. The guy's got like 4 Pro Bowls or something like that. Like, I don't even know if he got any All Pros, but I'm pretty sure he got at least one. So, like, a player like that would have been, remembered a lot more fondly had he won a championship, specifically in Seattle, because that's when they were kind of in that expansion phase. I should have put the years he played there, but I want to say he played there with Steve Largent. I want to say either at the end or at the middle or something like that. But I want to say he played with Steve Largent as well. So imagine what a Super Bowl would have done for his legacy too. Because people know him as one of the best receivers of all time, but he's not on like a lot of people's top 10 lists that I see, because he really don't have a ring, man. But he's very instrumental in the success of the little receiver, man. The ones that get open and create separation, man. So shout out to Steve Largent out there, man, because I'm telling you, and Dave Krieg, because he was balling, man. All right, so now we get into the real fun, man. We get into was that 5? That was 5, right?
Yeah, I want to say.
Yeah. So that was 5, man. So let me get into Matt Hasselbeck, baby. Matt Hasselbeck, baby. Let me find him, man. Look, we working with monsters out here, man. Oh, man, did I put this on there? I'm sorry, y'all. No, I didn't. I didn't mess it up. I found him. All right. Matt Hasselbeck, baby. Matt Hasselbeck. Let me get him Matt Hasselbeck. All right. So look, Matt Hasselbeck, man, was like one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the league when he was in his heyday, man.
Mm-hmm.
The offenses that they had in Seattle when he got there and when he was like really, really good, bro, they was nasty, dog. I mean, you got him, you got Sean Alexander, man. You got that crazy offensive line with Steve Hutchinson on it. I mean, you got some good defensive players, man. Grant Wistrom was out there. Um, gosh, I want to say they got Julian Peterson at one point as well. So I mean, they had some really good teams out there. Daryl Jackson was
Yeah,
a
Walter
killer at
Jones too.
receiver. Huh?
Walter Jones.
Yeah, man. Can't forget him, bro. So, like, yo, they have some good teams, man. And I think if he got a Super Bowl, it would have been crazy, right? I know it's back to back Seattle Seahawks, man. But had he got a Super Bowl, that would have been crazy because that would have been their first one. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they had an opportunity to do it against Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh was just that good, man. And the fact that they were that good lets you know that hey, it's hard to beat them, man. But I think, man, when you look at Matt Hasselbeck, man, the accuracy stands out to me, right? He finished his career with 60%, which is really good. You know, you're making a lot more than you're missing, and I feel like that was a good stamp for him because his numbers don't really translate into a boom. Oh, he's a Hall of Famer right away. But when you
Mm-hmm.
dive into the weeds of what he was really doing, he was out there conducting football surgery, man. He's out there doing some good work and some productive work as well. So, you have to look at things like that as well when you're going through this. Um, he's really good, man. He's a really, really good player and a really, really good quarterback. And I think a Super Bowl would have put people's eyes on him a lot more. Like I said, small sample size because he didn't play as long as some other guys. But I still think when you put a Super Bowl into the ingredients, I think you get a Hall of Famer out of it, man. So, and he might have played longer and they wouldn't have like got rid of him in Seattle as fast as they did. Because he did have a run, I think, with the Titans or Colts or something like that at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, but
But
he was pretty injury prone at that point. And the league was in the process of changing when he was playing too. It was starting to develop from like run to like really pass heavy. So I mean,
yeah, you're right. All right, so the next one on my list, man, is I'm gonna go with because that was four. So I'm gonna go. My third one is gonna be. My third one's gonna be Archie Manning, bro. Archie Manning, man. Like,
sure,
dude
that's
is
a
bro. But hear me out. Hear me out.
no,
All
no. I'm
right.
not disagreeing. I was just gonna say Archie was running for his life every freaking snap.
Yeah, and that's my point, right? So I get into this argument a lot with my grandpa sometimes, right? He'd be like, "Man, Archie's not that good, man." I'm like, "Bro, look at the teams he had, bro. That win loss, the win loss record that y'all see at the bottom of the screen ain't all Archie, dog. It
No, it's
ain't all
not.
Archie, man."
That's the Bronco
And
bag days, man.
yeah, man. And when you look at the numbers at the bottom of the screen, if you're watching this live, you'll see, yeah, the touchdown interception ratio is crazy, right? But
Mm-hmm.
put that into context. When you running for your life and just trying to make some plays because you're tired of losing all the time, you're gonna throw some interceptions, man. It just happens. You're trying to
Mm-hmm.
win, and you probably make the situation worse than it actually is, man. So, like I said, it's a interesting argument, but I feel like had they fixed the Saints like they were supposed to, and all of that losing that they was doing earlier, had they drafted a lot better, I think Archie Manning winning the Super Bowl would put him in a different light. Everybody and their mama know Archie was a baller.
Yeah,
Everybody.
New Orleans was just a really bad market at that point, and they
Yeah.
just had no luck in the draft. And Oh man, they had no luck with the offensive line either. Because he, like you said, he was literally running. Like I don't
Yeah.
like he was mobile, but I don't think he was mobile to the point where he should have been running that much. If that makes sense.
Yeah, man. So look, I'm not one to blame everybody, but it's definitely the Saints' fault that Archie isn't at high regard as he should be. Because Archie was the man at I want to say he went to Ole Miss, didn't
Ole
he?
Miss.
Yeah, so he was the man. He was the man out there. And for him to come into a situation like that, and it almost never got good for him. Like he was really, literally bad. It was bad for him, like all
Pretty
the
much like the
time.
whole time.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So I think that he would have been a whole lot better if they would have helped him and he was able to get a Super Bowl. Because I feel like he would be way more important to today's game, being as mobile as he was. Because I think he was actually one of those pioneers, man, of mobile quarterbacks making plays, the Fran Tarkingtons, all those guys, Roger Staubach. Like he was one of those guys, right? But all those dudes had weapons, man, and he ain't have none. So imagine if he got it done in New Orleans when they was actually at their bottom, getting them to some playoff appearances, some Super Bowls. I really think he would be important, man. So that's number 3 on my list, man. So like I said, when we get into your list, I want to know exactly who your number 1 is. I'm actually curious about that as well. So, all right, number 2 on my list, man, is that it might surprise you, but that is not number 1. But when I show you my number 1, you'll understand. All right, Andrew Luck, man.
Yeah, that's a big what if. I mean, we already did a what if on this. So I mean, we both grew up in that era. You ain't even you talking to the choir at that point.
Yeah, man. So look, Andrew Luck, man, retired less than like I want to say 5 years ago.
5-6 years ago, I think like 2018 or 2019.
Yeah, something like that, right? So had he still been playing, which I think he would be a Hall of Famer, man. The numbers would speak for itself, right? But I would be lying if I told you he was going to get a Super Bowl. Yeah. I would be lying. I would be lying to you. I don't think he would have gotten one. And I don't think he would have gotten one simply because the Colts are inept.
They're not getting through the Chiefs, bro. That team was not like, unless they were going to make drastic changes, I don't think he's getting through Kansas City.
Exactly,
the AFC
man.
was loaded, starting to become like really loaded at that point.
Exactly. So that's my point on this whole thing. Andrew Luck would have not survived that long anyway, because he was gonna get knocked out because they didn't give him protection and they didn't give him a running game, man. They barely had a defense. It was literally all him, you know. So when you think about
that's it.
Yeah. So when you think about the fact that he is such a talent, man, and the top 2 players in that draft, both are retired now, you know. Blows your mind because they would probably be, that was like 2012.
Dude, they would have took over the league. I'm not gonna say you wouldn't have had Mahomes, but the league would look so much different had they not have gotten injured or like just hung it up. People don't remember all that. I remember that like it was yesterday. You remember that like it was yesterday. I was really hopeful. I liked where things were going, but obviously we didn't expect or couldn't have expected things to happen like that.
Yeah, man. So I think a Super Bowl would have helped Andrew Luck, man. I think maybe had he won a Super Bowl, they might have invested more in him. You know, I mean, don't get to it. They tried, but they ain't try hard enough, man. This is your golden goose, and you got him getting cooked like this every week. Come on, man. Stop it, man. So that's my whole thing about Andrew Luck, man. I wish he would have been able to get the protection that he needed and the run
Mm-hmm.
game, because the Super Bowl would have definitely put him in high regard. Because right now, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer unless you give
Mm-mm.
him the Gale Sayers treatment, which you had like a crazy span of really
Yeah.
good play, which he did, which he
Yeah,
did.
it's just I don't know. Like that's a discussion in itself. Like I'm not saying you couldn't, but I just think we're in this day and age where I don't know if you can get away with doing that, especially with how high his hype was, and to say he never could get out of like that AFC Championship game. Like at least if he could have made it and lost, I'd probably say yeah, you probably have a really good case, but I don't know.
See, I don't know. I like I said, I think if you give him the Gale Sayers, Kurt Warner type, you know, uh, ingredients, you could maybe make an argument, man, because like I said, Gale Sayers was really good in that stretch that he had. I'm talking about otherworldly. And then he had
Mm-hmm.
those knee injuries, and that was it, right? So Andrew Luck was having some injury issues too, and they weren't helping him. So I feel like they might talk about it. It'll be a while before he gets in because you're gonna have a lot of people stumping the ground to make noise about, hey,
Mm-hmm.
this guy needs to be in there. Kind of like
Yeah.
Art Monk was. Art Monk was like one of the best receivers of his era. When he retired, he was leading the league in everything. Whatever it was that you thought receivers could do, Art Monk was doing it. So
Mm-hmm.
not in the context of this is Andrew Luck, but in the context that they wasn't letting him in, knowing how good he was. It took fans and media members to like stump the ground, like, yo, what is you doing? I think Andrew Luck
Mm-hmm.
would need that type of resurgence from everybody to get into the Hall of Fame. But a Super Bowl, nonetheless, would have helped him a lot, man. So,
Yeah, I agree.
so, so, now we get into my number one, man. And this one surprised me more than anything. And he gets more hate than he deserves. And he should, a Super Bowl would have helped him drastically. When I say drastically, drastically. Okay, number one on my list, man. Boomer Esiason, man. Okay,
Choo!
all right. Hear me out, man.
Boomer
You
was
watching this? You watching
nasty,
this
bro.
live, right? Yeah, watching this live, man. Look at this resume.
Dude.
Four-time Pro Bowler, got an All
Mhm.
Pro, MVP, MVP, Sport News, Player of the Year. 88 was his year, bro. All right. So look, you're looking at these numbers at the bottom of your screen, right? Tell me a Super Bowl wouldn't have made Boomer Esiason one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, bro. Tell
Mhm.
me, tell me when I'm telling lies, as CM Punk said, right? Tell me when I'm telling lies. Come on, man. Stop it. The hate is too much, man. All right. I get it. I get it, man. He went to the Jets and that wasn't really the best move. But at the same time, dude was on a warpath, man. 4 Pro Bowls, man. Come on, man. And 88 MVP. Man, you add like it's people out here playing that or played that would love to have an MVP season, man.
Mhm.
And he got it all, all pro, MVP, everything, So, um, like I said, man, dude deserved to win a Super Bowl, man, because he got
Mhm.
close in '88, man. That was a close one. That was a close one. You going against Joe Montana, man? That's a tough one, man. Imagine Joe Montana losing a Super Bowl.
Choo!
Come on,
They
man.
win. That
Imagine.
changes that franchise altogether, though. Cincinnati, I feel like if you win that Super Bowl, even if you don't win another one the rest of his career, I feel like that propels them and gets them in a much better place because, like how you were talking about earlier with Carson, I don't see Cincinnati being as cheap as they are at that point. I don't see them cutting corners with their facilities and their weight room and putting up with like lackluster coaching. And I just think Cincinnati, if they win that year, I think they're in a much better place. I think they're a much more respectable organization. I think he's on a lot more people's radar and people's lists. And I just think that franchise as a whole is going to be in a much better place by the time Carson Palmer's draft comes along, he might not, you know what I mean? He might not even be going to Cincinnati at that point. There's so many dominoes that could have fell. And the league probably would have looked a lot different had that happened, because the 49ers were still winning Super Bowls up until the mid-90s. So, I mean, had they lost, I don't know what would have happened had that had happened.
Yeah, man, that's my whole thing. That's why he's number one, man. Because a Super Bowl would have, it would have painted a different light for Boomer Esiason. Now he's had a great career after football, being on TV, being.
I don't mind him as an analyst. He's okay as an analyst.
You don't like him as an analyst?
No, I said I don't mind him as an analyst.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's cool. It's cool. He had a great career after football, man. But I feel like having a Super Bowl puts you in a different light, and people don't disrespect him like they do more times than not, man. Because of his opinions and things like that. So I feel like he's number one on my list, man. Because if he won one, it would have been big, not only for him but Cincinnati, and maybe he doesn't even go to the Jets. Maybe they just let him ride out in Cincinnati, So, but that's my list, man. What you think about it, man?
I like it. I don't really have a whole lot of football, like you already alluded to. We look at things a lot of the same way. The order, I'm not going to even say it's like irrelevant, but a lot of those guys could have had any case to be up there as well. I don't have any pushback at all. I thought that was cool that you put him in there. Nobody talks about him at all. You don't ever hear his name. Now, I'll be honest with you, he's not on my list, but I do hold him in very high regard. And I like his game, one, because he's a lefty, but I respect him for the situation he found himself in. It was able to try to make the best out of it. Unfortunately, he was just, dude, almost nobody that time was going to be able to get through the juggernaut that was the 49ers with Bill Walsh and all of them. I mean, you got to respect his game and the work he put in. It does suck, though, that he doesn't get recognition just because, they just couldn't get over the hump,
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. Like I said, man, like I said, this list was cool, man. To see some of the guys on the list, man, that kind of grouped together. Like, I just think, Super Bowls would have helped all of them, man. So, but like I said, I've talked long enough, man. Time for you to get in your list, man.
All right. So it's a similar list, but I'm just going on just more the traditional route. It's just going to be like your top 10 quarterbacks who either just had never won one. Some of these guys had made it to Super Bowls, but for whatever reason, just didn't have the cards, man. Things just didn't go the right way. Had they made it, maybe it just came up short, or maybe they just weren't able to get everything put together to make it all together. So, I mean, and a lot of these guys are rotational, so I wouldn't say everything's fully set in stone. A lot of these guys you can move up and down the list, so I'm not very hard up on anything. Probably besides the top three, I feel like those three guys are just like in a class a little separate. But if we're going to start things off, if I'm going to go with number 10 on my list of the greatest quarterbacks to never win a Super Bowl, I'm going to go with Donovan McNabb, man. I think McNabb really gets a bad rap for them. One, he was very consistent. Always in the NFC Championship picture, always in the Super Bowl picture. His statistics were still really good, a 59% completion percentage, almost 40,000 yards passing, man, almost 250 touchdowns. He was the perfect quarterback for what Andy Reid wanted to run at that point, and they were a viable force in the NFC. I think a lot of people remember him for like the tail end of his career when he started experiencing injuries and Philly wanted to move in a different direction and ended up shipping him to Washington, I want to say, which was really weird at the time, to go to an in-division rival, not to mention be the Redskins at the time. I think McNabb could have played in today's game. Maybe not the most mobile guy, but I think he was really good at reading defenses and had a pretty good strength of arm as well. I mean, yeah, I think McNabb gets a bad rap, mainly for like the tail end of his career, but nobody talks about that. I don't even know how many seasons, 5, 6, 7 seasons, where I feel like he was one of the better passers in the NFC, if not the NFL as a whole. And I think he was a big driving force behind the Eagles being as good as they were. So I've got him at number 10.
Okay. I like that.
Number 9 is a guy who often gets critiqued for his delivery. Now, he did have good weapons consistently for the most part, but I feel like a Super Bowl It's something that I feel like everybody anticipated him to have, especially once he became the guy where he was at. And at number 9, man, I've got Phillip Rivers. Man. One of the top offenses throughout the 2000s between with him and LT, Antonio Gates, plenty of other big names with Darren Sproles, guys like that. Electrifying, man. Good quick release, accurate, strong arm, man. Those guys, I feel like they would drop over 35 points a game every year, back to back to back. I think, what was it, 07? I think Norv Turner had them boys going 13-3, which felt like the year. I said, man, I don't know. I said, obviously I'm a Patriots fan. I'm like, man, I don't know if we can outscore the Chargers, man. Like, we had a really good offense, but I'm like, man, they can score quick. Like, we just drive down the field and we can go down to Moss, but man, the Chargers were just scoring at will. And Rivers did it so consistently that nobody was talking about. Even going out of that era, even to like the mid 2010s, still putting up numbers, still like keeping the AFC West really relevant. And the Chargers were always in the picture. Even if you didn't think they were going to make the Super Bowl, they were always in the playoffs, and they were always giving somebody a headache because Rivers just always knew how to keep his team in the game. Always finding a way to get in the end zone. Threw for a lot of yards, man. I don't know if he threw for 5,000, but dude, he was consistently throwing over 4,000 yards, 30+ touchdowns. Really good quarterback, and I'm glad he ended up getting his flowers. Now everybody talks about with Phillip Rivers is just that he's like Antonio Cromartie and just has like a million kids. That's all everybody talks about with Phillip Rivers nowadays, unfortunately. But man, a really good quarterback. And before the Colts got Anthony Richardson, the last decent quarterback that they had, and he brought them to the playoffs too.
They did.
So I mean, yeah, I've got Phillip Rivers at 9, man. I don't really think he should go too much higher, but nonetheless, still really good. And I think people should give him his due respect.
Real.
So number 8, man. Number 8 is a small town college quarterback, able to rise to the occasion on multiple occasions, made it to Super Bowl, and consistently winning season. I'm going with Steve Air McNair, man, from Alcorn State. Dude, McNair, all these kids have no idea. If you don't know who Steve McNair is, you need a man. Led the Titans to the Super Bowl with Jeff and Eddie Dice. Dramatic, tragic catch. Just couldn't get the ball over the pylon. McNair was really good, man. Consistent, really good percentage, good winning record. Almost 200 touchdowns. Magically, I want to say 2008, 2000 peace to McNair and condolences and prayers this as well. But McNair, man, just he's one of those guys that really paved the way for African Americans. Like, maybe not the he put the ball on the money no matter where he was. He had weapons too, whether he went in Tennessee or even when he went to Baltimore. No one talks about when he went to Baltimore. They had Derek Mason and Pete and Jamal Lewis and guys like that, and they were really good. One of the only spots that Baltimore had at quarterback in their history, besides with Joe Flacco and obviously Lamar Jackson. I don't feel like talk about McNair enough, especially to be able to come from a small school like he did. And I want to say he was in the Heisman talks when he was acknowledged as well. I think he was a finalist, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
had a really good lead to win the Heisman when he was coming to Alcorn State. But, man, just a winner, bro. Like, obviously, they just couldn't win at the very end. But, like, I feel like there's a guy who really talked about a lot more. 25, like 25 all time. Got him at number 8.
All right.
So, number 7, we're going to go back a little bit. It's one of the only first guys, probably one of the most proficient passers of his era. Washington, I'm going to say Redskins. I hope we don't get canned. But y'all need to pick it. Y'all just need to go back to the original name. But Washington Redskins legend, man, Sonny Jurgensen, man. The era where he played at, we talk about this all the time, where it wasn't pass heavy. So they were still trying to figure out mechanics and how these guys were throwing the ball and trying to open schemes up because it was just really run heavy, in the trenches, ground pound, getting the end zone. This guy had a nice release, man. Spiral, accurate.
Yeah.
Like, nobody talks about how good Sonny Jurgensen really was. And I don't even remember them having really big-time weapons at like throughout his time in Washington. And he just there's not a whole lot I can say besides just consistent, great passer, especially for the time, like where I feel like a lot of quarterbacks weren't really the greatest passers because it wasn't really required of them up to that point. All they were having to do was just turn around, hand the ball off, throw a couple times in zone, third down, stuff like that. But Tony Jurgensen, I feel like, is one of those guys who doesn't get talked about as helping revolutionize the quarterback position to be able to throw the ball, especially to throw the ball downfield accurate. I've got him at number 7.
Okay. I like that.
Number 6. I was just talking about a guy who really helped revolutionize the quarterback position, especially for American quarterbacks. I've got another really, because like you said, now franchises are starting to invest more in mobile quarterbacks. Although have translated to many Super Bowls at all, it's something that is obviously the league is obviously opening their eyes to. And number 6, man, I've got Randall Cunningham, man. Randall was really good in situations. Everybody really remembers him for his time with the Eagles. Consistent, man. Just a playmaker, always gets his team in positions to win. A guy that just can get out the pocket and make plays, man. Open the door for a lot of other quarterbacks, not even just mobile quarterbacks, but guys that just like to roll out and be able to make plays. They'll make plays downfield, in the short game, long game. Deceptively fast, man. Really fast. I really liked Randall when he finally got a chance to go and play with some really good weapons. Got his chance to go to Minnesota, throwing to guys like Moss and Chris Carter. Unfortunately, we talked about this before. That year, what was it, 99, I want to say. That should have been their year to win it all. It came down to what I think a missed field goal late in the fourth quarter or overtime. Ended up being a defining moment where they were like, okay, now it's time to find us somebody else. It ended up going into them getting Culpepper. But yeah, I think Cunningham really opened the door for guys like Vic, a lot of these other mobile quarterbacks, especially even coming into the league at this point. So yeah, I've got Randall Cunningham at number 6.
All right, bet. Yeah, that was that was 98. Yeah, that was 98. That was the year that was the year
that was
that
Denver and what's it called?
Denver and Atlanta. Yeah, it should have been Denver and the Broncos, Denver and Minnesota. Yeah, yeah, that's a tough one, man. Tough one.
So now we're gonna get into the top 5. And number 5, man, I've got Dan, a guy that I don't hear about at all, especially in an era during the 70s where they were starting to open things up on offense. Dude, he was awesome. Chargers were always good in that era. Nobody talks about it nowadays, but like they were able to score points, just like not necessarily the same like the Rivers teams, but just revolutionized the game. I forgot who was what was his name? The receiver. I had him on another list I made. I forget his name. That played at the same time as Fouts. I forget his name. Oh, I can't think about it. Nonetheless, though, man, a really good passer. I don't remember what his statistics were. I don't think you got it up, but
yeah.
Chargers were all okay. Yeah, let's do it. So we threw for almost 60% completion, 254 touchdowns, man. Just above 500 for win-loss, but I think that it goes a lot deeper than that. I just think that he was a pioneer for the passing game, especially with how wide open the passing game is nowadays. I feel like a lot of these guys and coaches are going back to times like this, seeing how they're breaking down defenses and be able to throw the ball downfield, man. I think Dan Fouts is one of the pioneers, especially in that retrospective. And I think he deserves to be top 5 in my opinion.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Like I said, the interceptions just comes as a guy that's slinging it, man. So, I mean, when you out there just throwing the ball a bunch of times, you're going to throw some interceptions every now and then. That's just how it goes, man. So, I don't necessarily go into all of that, man. I just think the time he played was just tough, man. It was more great teams than there were great quarterbacks, if you understand what I'm saying, man. So, for his credit, he was a great quarterback on a not so great team. They had some players. But there's other teams during that era in the AFC specifically that they had to go through. You know, you talking about the Steelers, you're talking about the Raiders, you know, you're talking about teams like that, you know, that you have to go through these juggernaut teams. Like, bro, you ain't finna win too many Super Bowls. even with a revolutionary offense. So yeah, I get that. I get that, man.
Cool. Number 4, man, it's a guy who I really like, who I feel is talked about but doesn't really get held. Like, he's a Hall of Famer, really good, especially his defense was really good at the time he played. Another guy who really helped revolutionize the mobile quarterback, man, that's Fran Tarkenton. Fran Tarkenton was a bad man, bro. I feel like when I see Fran Tarkenton, I get glimpses of Aaron Rodgers to an extent, not to the same degree, but like he's rolling out the pocket, going towards the sideline and slinging it 40, 50 yards downfield, just that. But his ability to get out of the pocket, and when he doesn't see anything, he's able to just take off and get him a first down or put him in position where they can get in scoring position. I want to say when he played, that was when they had the Purple People Eaters, correct? If I'm not, in that era where Minnesota's defense was legendary, one of the greatest defenses of all time. So they were always giving him opportunities to get the ball back and to score points. That is a perk, but there was a lot of times that his offensive line wasn't blocking for him the greatest. So he would play just like how we talked about Archie Manning, always on the run, always trying to find an opportunity to get the ball downfield so we can keep chains moving, keep the points coming in. Seth will be good as a passer. I don't think people talk about his passing ability that much. They always talk about how his scrambling ability. Really good passer as well, especially being able to throw against his body and going towards the sidelines. I think Fran Tarkenton, man, and they made it to a Super Bowl too, if I'm not mistaken. Came up short, if I'm remembering correct.
They made it to about 4, bro.
That's what I'm saying. They made it to a few. They just couldn't get it. Couldn't get it done.
Yeah,
But
they made it to a lot, bro. Yeah.
I wouldn't even be mad if you had him top 3. I feel like once you get to like 4, I feel you can kind of move guys around. But Tarkenton, man, nonetheless, benefited from a really good defense, but doesn't take anything from what he contributed to the game and what he was able to accomplish and so on.
Agreed. I like that.
Cool. Number 3, I'm just going to cut straight to the chase. Is the guy we talk about on the channel all the time, and that's Warren Moon. A career that spanned, that felt like decades upon decades, going from the Canadian Football League, racking up a bunch of yards there and transitioning into the NFL, man. Warren Moon could do it all. Prolific passer, playmaker, pinpoint accurate, just didn't have the greatest supporting cast around him the majority of his career, but was able to put teams on his shoulders and get things done regardless, man. 58 completion percentage, almost 50,000 yards passing, almost 300 touchdowns, not to mention the other out-of-world stats he put up in the Canadian League. And I know a lot of people aren't going to dignify that, but I feel like, especially with the time that this was happening, I feel like you kind of have to look at that. Because that goes to show that he could compete whenever, wherever, didn't matter. I feel like had he been in a much more stable situation where they were more willing to build around him and have better opportunities, I feel like Warren Moon would have easily had 1, 2, 3 Super Bowls easily. It just ran into a lot of these juggernaut teams, and they just didn't have enough firepower most of the time. But take nothing away, another pioneer for the quarterback position, especially just from a playmaker perspective as well as a pure passing perspective. Warren Moon's one of the greatest to ever do it, and it's a real shame that he never got to win a Super Bowl. But kudos to him in his Hall of Fame career nonetheless.
Yeah, man, those Oilers teams was off the chain, man. Like I said, I think their biggest issue was defense, bro, because they could score 40. They're going to give up 50. And, hey, in that particular, if you're going against a team like the Bills, who they had like the biggest choke game ever against, like, you got to stop somebody, and they did that with a backup quarterback, Frank Reich. So you got to understand that you got to have some type of defense. You can't outscore everybody, but you got to stop somebody too, man. So, like I said, I like Warren Moon up there. Yeah.
And number 2, man, a guy who had a plethora of talent around him on both sides of the ball, offense, defense. Mm-hmm. And I don't necessarily blame a lot of his inability to win a Super Bowl on him. I think it was a lot of very unfortunate circumstances and some really bad situations they found themselves in, man. And there's another team that we talk about quite a bit, and a team that Cam will never put money on. It doesn't matter how favorable the situation.
Nope.
And number 2, man, I'm going Jim Kelly, Buffalo Bills legend, quarterback that led the Bills to 4 consecutive Super Bowls. I don't really put a whole lot of the blame on him because I don't find he had horrible performances in these Super Bowls. Let's look at statistics, man. 101, 59-0, 60% completion percentage, over 35,000 yards passing, and almost 250 yards passing. But I have to admit, this guy he had so much talent around him. Bruce Smith, who they had, what is his name at running back? I forget his name.
Thurman Thomas.
Yep, you had Thurman Thomas. You had Andre Reed. Dude, Buffalo was loaded. Nobody could get through Buffalo in the AFC in this era. Dude, Buffalo would run through everybody. They were just strong and physical on defense, and they were just able to always score on offense. If you weren't scoring points, man, like with the opportunities you were given, you weren't beating Buffalo. Especially in the playoffs, man. They would put you down. They're trying to make it back.
Yeah.
Jim Kelly, man, I'm glad that he was able to overcome his battle with cancer, things like that. Very good quarterback, man.
Right
he was very prolific, but I feel like he was overshadowed by a lot of the other really good quarterbacks of that era, man. Montana, Young, Aikman, freaking who's the other guy I'm thinking of? John Elway.
Yeah, Brett Favre too at some point. Brett Favre too at some point.
Yeah, because Brett Favre was coming into his own at this point. During that era when Green Bay won that Super Bowl with Mike Holmgren as coach.
Yeah.
And I don't put a whole lot of the blame on him for losing those, man. That's a whole video in itself. Them losing 4 consecutive. I don't know how you wake up every morning and don't think about that. Bro. Like it's pretty nuts when you sit down and you really start breaking down numbers and like, dude, statistically, y'all should be winning the Super Bowl like every single time. Y'all just, I don't know what, it's like the ultimate choke job. Like we talk about the Falcons so much and how we had 20-3, but this takes the cake. 4 consecutive years. But I don't want to harp on that, man. Had Jim Kelly won a Super Bowl, I feel like people would talk about him a lot more. A lot of people don't even have Jim Kelly top 10. And I think Jim Kelly has a case to maybe be top 10 had he won that 1 or 2 at least out of those 4. If he could have split even, I think we'd be having a much different conversation. And I think the league might be a little bit different right now. And Buffalo may not have had those struggles that they had with the entire early 2010s like they had with very lackluster quarterback play from guys like J.P. Lossman and E.J. Manuel and a plethora of other guys with Kyle Orton, all kinds of guys. But nonetheless, man, Jim Kelly, a class act, great passer. He's a bona fide winner. Just couldn't be a bona fide winner on the grandest stage of them all. But nonetheless, I've got Jim Kelly at number 2.
Yeah, man. To close out your point about Jim Kelly, man. So, look, Jim Kelly, people don't talk about him a lot, because he lost some Super Bowls, right? But people also don't talk about how short his career was in the NFL because he played in the USFL for a while. So, I think he would have been even more surefire Hall of Famer had he played like those 4 or 5 years he played in the USFL. I think if he played those years in the NFL, his numbers would look a lot better. And maybe the Bills get one earlier, before Dallas gets real good or before Washington gets real good. You know what I'm saying? So you never know. So that's an interesting what if scenario, man. If he would have came in earlier, but like I said, and another player on their defense that people don't really talk about, Bruce Smith got all the attention, man. But people don't talk about Cornelius Bennett enough, man.
Yeah,
Cornelius Bennett was just as good as Bruce Smith. And be honest with you, Bruce probably don't get all them sacks without Cornelius on the other side. You know what I'm saying? Because Cornelius beat up his guy, and the dude run right into Bruce Smith. So like they don't give Cornelius Bennett enough love. So I'm definitely gonna give him some love. Most definitely. So, but yeah, man, let's get into this number 1. I know where you're going. You gotta go here. There's no way to go.
Guys, if you have watched our channel in any capacity over the last year, you know who the fan favorite quarterback is on this podcast. Man, we would love to meet you. Hall of Famer, one of the most underrated quarterbacks of all time, man, and number one of the greatest quarterbacks to never win a Super Bowl, man, the legendary Dan Marino, man. What have we not already said? Quickest release in NFL history. Greatest playmaker quarterback I've ever seen, man. Tough, gritty, stands in the pocket, makes all the throws, man. If you want the definition of a true winner, that's your guy. Very bad circumstance he found himself in all those times in Miami. Did not want to build around him, didn't want to get the right pieces in the right places. Finally made it in what he made his rookie year, I want to say.
Yep.
Correct? Yeah. Made it his rookie year and just ran into the 49ers, if I'm not mistaken, which I had a real to be in that game. They didn't have enough. 49ers were just loaded. And then they were always in the Super Bowl picture through the 90s. Always a contender. Always a contender. Never get there. Because they just put the at all. Let's just imagine this. You put Dan Marino, take 2 out, and you put Dan Marino in that spot right now. In his prime. That's scary. No disrespect to Tua. But I'm just saying, you put prime Dan Marino in that offense, that's a whole different ball game. I wish that they would have just had some kind of competency. Think if he would have even had those teams like with what Nick Saban was building in the early 2000s. Think if he would have had a team like that. That team's winning a Super Bowl with Dan Marino at center, under center, man.
Yeah.
Strong, I liked his charisma and how confident he was and not afraid to put the ball wherever. It didn't matter if the pressure was there, man. Dan Marino, man, not enough respect. You guys have seen our top quarterback lists. I think Dan Marino's the greatest quarterback of all. From a talent perspective, what he's able to do on the field with minimal talent around him. Like I said, you can plug and play on any of these greats to take the team to even greater height. I've got Dan Marino.
Yeah, man. Nah, I like it, man. Like I said, he was the number one guy you had to go with, man. That's why I said we had to do different lists because I was gonna do the same thing. Like it's gonna be Dan Marino or anything. So, but nah, man, you explained it eloquently, man. I like it. I like that a lot, man. Dan don't get the love that he deserved, man. And he's actually a pioneer of the game. Like a pioneer of the game that people really don't, give enough respect to, man. Because his game was transcendent of today. He was passing for 5,000 yards when people didn't even know what 5,000 was.
Most didn't even know 4,000.
Yeah, I said it. I said it in the video we made before. He was passing for 5,000 yards before people knew what 5,000 yards was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, put that into quotations, bro, because the year he had that set the all-time mark, that record set for almost 20 years before somebody else broke it.
Until Drew Brees had broke it. Yep.
Yeah. So put that into context, man. That it was a long time before somebody touched 5,000, bro, and he did it in an era where they wasn't even passing 3,500 for real. So the dude had a talent, man, but they just didn't do what they were supposed to do, especially on defense, man. Because Dan Marino was awesome. Yes, he was a gunslinger. He did all of that. But at the same time, man, them Dolphins teams that they had back in the day were run based. So Bob Greasy didn't have to do nothing for real, right? But now you shift to a guy who can do something with the ball, and you just forget the run game, bro. You forget the defense. Why? Because you can score 40 points with ease? Nah, bro. No, it's not like that, man. But like I said, he's one of these guys that transcend football, man. And he's the architect of every quarterback that you see today. You know, he was the only quarterback to beat the 85 Bears that year. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because he had a quick release. They couldn't touch him.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't touch him. You know, so when you get to a player like this, man, it's tough to see him not win. Because I know he would have got one had he got some help. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so but like I said, that's sometimes the way the cookie crumbles, man. And but don't it doesn't hurt his legacy at all, man. His legacy goes way beyond just not winning. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so most definitely, man. Yep. All
Well, I
right,
hope you
man.
enjoyed.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that was a good list, man. Good list, man. So like I said, man, we're going to get into our closing segment today. Obviously, the draft has just happened. So, I'm going to go over my team's draft and, tell you how I feel about it. And Brandon's going to go over his teams as well. And he's going to tell you how he feels about it, man. So, but this is going to be our draft grade segment, man. So, like I said, we'll get into it. But you start because you got more teams than I do.
Okay. So, if anybody watches this channel, they're gonna know that I usually represent with New England because feel like I've been a Patriots fan for 22 years, I think, since NFL Fever '03 came out. It's been a long time. If y'all
Damn,
don't know NFL Fever, if y'all don't know who NFL Fever is, y'all need to do your homework because NFL Fever is a very
damn.
underrated game. I had the
NFL
demo.
fever, bro?
When I first got
What?
my Xbox when I was a kid. I had the demo, and the only two teams you could play as was the Rams and the Patriots because those are the teams that played in the Super Bowl the previous year. And it was just a wrap
That,
after that.
that's old, bro. That's old.
That's
That
what
is
I'm saying.
old.
That's what people
That
want to
is
say.
old, bro.
People used to say, "Oh, you're a bandwagon." I'm like, nah, dude. I went,
Nah,
nah,
bro.
bro. 20 plus years, bro. It's been a long time. So I'm gonna start with the Patriots just because it's been it's been a struggle the last 4 or 5 years. I'm just gonna be completely honest with you. I'm not gonna touch base on all of our picks, but I'm gonna start with the most obvious one, man. Number 3, man. We drafted Drake May, quarterback out of North Carolina. I am not mad at the pick, although if you guys haven't watched it already, check out College Football Dogs. We had a live stream, pretty much reacting to every draft pick in the first round. You can ask Cam. I was not very pleased with the result of the second pick because Washington wanted to rain on my parade and they wanted to take Jaden Daniels when they know they should have taken Drake May. But you know what? I'm not complaining because at the end of the day, like, yes, I wanted something different, but Drake May is the most pro-rated quarterback in this draft, man. I think he does have some maturing to do in his game, but dude,
Yeah,
he's a gamer, bro. Playmaker,
yeah.
strong arm, pinpoint accurate, man. We always say he can drop a ball in a bucket anywhere on the field. I think he can really help this offense. I'm hoping we can still make some signings maybe in free agency because there are some really good veteran receivers that could really help us on offense, especially guiding some of our newer guys. I think
Hmm.
Drake May is a plug and play man. I think he's going to have an immediate impact. The AFC the AFC East is a little tough, but I think it's going to be a little bit different this year because I think Buffalo is going to struggle. The
Yeah.
Jets are obviously getting better, and the Dolphins obviously got better. I don't expect it to be fixed overnight, but I think you made the right pick. I don't think you should
Yeah.
have went with anybody else at this 3 spot. I don't think JJ McCarthy was the right pick. Obviously, you're not going to take Bo Nix this early. You didn't get Daniels, you didn't get Caleb Williams, but you got pretty much a guy who was in consideration to be the first pick before this past season started. So nonetheless, you get your franchise guy. Uh, let's see. When you go to the second round, we ended up getting Jalen Polk in the second round, another big target from Michael Penix. Obviously not Roma Dunze, which would have been awesome. But Jalen Polk is another really good weapon. We're really lackluster in the receiving core. Uh, I think you need to cut ties with Juju Smith-Schuster. I think it's time to just move on
Yeah.
from that. Wasn't
Yeah.
doing
So
anything. I
yeah. So
don't think we have Devontae Parker anymore. That wasn't really worth anything. You still have Mike Gesicki and Hunter Henry in your tight end room, which will help a rookie quarterback having those safety blankets. But I
yep.
think you need to start getting some guys in there that are young like him, and you can start building chemistry and have a really good tandem going forward. And I don't think they had a bad draft, man. They went and got offensive tackle in the 3rd round. They got guard in the 4th round. They got Javon Baker out of Central Florida, which I thought was a really good pick for them. Another really good receiver who I feel like should have went higher in the draft, in my opinion. But you go out, you get 2 pretty good receivers to help Drake May out. You go corner. The one thing that really made me scratch my head a little bit was taking Joe Milton in the 6th round. But honestly, like, I'm not mad at it because why not just, it doesn't hurt to have a veteran guy sitting behind me. But bringing a mobile guy in with a strong arm like that doesn't hurt anything. It really doesn't, in my opinion. Like, especially what happens if May gets hurt? It's the same thing when we had a dude from Louisville last year. He came in and he didn't look that bad either. Cunningham. Yeah. I don't think it's a bad pick. I probably say he's probably going to end up being 3rd on your depth chart. If he's not 3rd, they're going to probably keep him on the practice squad just in case you go down a member on offense. Yeah. But overall, man, I don't think the Patriots had a bad draft. I think they addressed some needs. Their defense was already really good. They only went defense on 1 pick, and that was the corner out of South Carolina. If I have to give the Patriots a grade, I'd probably say I'd give them a B minus maybe. They didn't completely knock it out of the park, but you got your stud at quarterback. You got some good weapons for them at receiver. And I think you took care of a lot of team needs, man. You lost Trent Brown and I think somebody else on the offensive line, so you went and you addressed that. I think New England is obviously in a rebuild under first-year head coach Gerard Mayo, but I think they're in a good place. It's going to probably take a couple years, but I think they did pretty good, man. Not great, but B minus, I think that's where they fall.
All right, no, man. All right, no, that's fair. That's fair. I like that. At least a fair criticism. All right, so let's get into your second team, man.
Yeah, so this was a big surprise for me. New Orleans, I'll be honest with you, I've been saying that Mickey Loomis was on the chopping block for quite some time up to this point. And I don't know. I didn't have high expectations coming into the draft. I knew that they needed to go offensive line in the 1st round. I don't see any scenario where they didn't. And they got probably one of the better offensive linemen in the draft in Taliese Fuaga out of Oregon State. I think that's a huge help because, one, you don't know if Trevor Penning's going to pan out. You wasted – I'm not going to say you wasted, but you reached on him in the 1st round 2 or 3 years ago, and he hasn't yet to pan out. And then your all-pro left tackle or right tackle and Ryan Ramczyk might not ever play again with miscommunications with his knees and stuff like that with surgery and things like that. So I think you needed to go offensive line. There are 2 picks that really stood out to me that were surprising. With one in the 7th round that to play, which was a really good opinion, because you don't know if you're going to be moving on from Marshawn Lattimore. There's a lot of talk of them trading him whatever draft capital or assets they can back, especially him getting up in age. I thought that was a really good fit, especially they're pretty good corner, really young, but they have some really good talent at the cornerback position, as well as that they didn't have a pick in the 3rd round, they didn't have a pick in the 4th round. The one that surprised me the most was taking Spencer Rattler in the 5th round. I thought that was a steal.
Yeah, that was a steal.
I think that was a steal. I'm not gonna say he's Mahomes. I'm not gonna say that, but man, Spencer Rattler's potential is very high. What the scenario I see playing out is, let's say the Saints don't put it together. They have another underwhelming year like last year. They missed the playoffs. What I see happening is they're going to fire Dennis Allen. You're going to probably try to bring in one of these young head coaches or young coordinators to be head coaches, who I think would be a really good fit would be a guy like Kellen Moore maybe, because I think he's definitely paid his dues. I think he really, especially with Kubiak at offensive coordinator, I think New Orleans could be New Orleans could find themselves a top 10 offensive unit. You're still paying Carr for a few more seasons. Obviously, they restructured his contract. Dude, you get Rattler in there with a new hungry head coach and a guy like Kellen Moore and a young hungry offensive coordinator and Clint Kubiak, that could be dangerous. Now, obviously, they still had to get some weapons, which they did address those. Those picks were big to me. You got Means out of a Pittsburgh receiver. Jalen Ford out of Texas was a really good pick at linebacker for me, especially playing on that Texas defense.
Yeah.
I thought that was a steal.
That's the
as
one.
well. They definitely needed to upgrade a linebacker. They have good linebackers, but you got to understand Davis is getting up in age.
Mm.
You still have Pete Werner, he's a really underrated stud at linebacker. But
Yeah.
Jalen Ford's a playmaker, playing with Bo Davis and those guys in Texas. I think that's a really big signing for them as well. I think New Orleans, if I had to give them a grade, I'd probably say a B plus. I
Okay.
don't want to give them
No.
an A because I don't think they knocked anything out of the park. But like, out of their how many picks they had? 7 picks. I feel like you knocked at least 4 out of the park, in my opinion. I think Fuaga was a really good pick. Kool-Aid was an awesome pick.
Yeah.
Getting Rattler in the 5th round was a steal. And then getting Jalen Ford late in the 5th round as well was a really good pickup for them as well. So I give them about a B plus.
Nah, man, I like it. I like that draft a lot, man. Like I said, y'all got a lot of needs taken care of, man. Like I said, the player I think will probably be the most successful out of all these picks, man, is Jalen Ford, man. I feel like you got a guy that's probably gonna play day one as a late round pick. And if you can get a guy that late and play early, man, you got to steal. And it's cheap too, because he ain't gonna make a lot of money yet. So if he ball out, you ain't gotta pay him that much now. Now down the line, you're gonna have to get paid. But right now, you get yourself a really good player, man, and call it a day, man. If I had to go, the lineman that y'all picked in the first round, obviously is gonna be an impact guy for the Saints. Like that's not even gonna be a question. He's gonna be probably starting day one. But the next one on the list is probably Spencer Rattler, man. So in a scenario where Derek Carr isn't playing up to snuff as he somehow always does, um, you got a guy that I think feels a little disrespected, man. Like about getting picked so low, considering he was one of the highest rated recruits and one of the highest rated players in college until Caleb Williams came along. Showed some really good promise at South Carolina, but not enough to regain the steam that he had before that season where Caleb Williams took over. So, but I think you got a pissed off player. I also think you got a pissed off player in Kool-Aid. Now, like I said, I'm a Bama fan, but I always thought Terrion Arnold was the better of the two.
Yeah.
So I'll go head to head with anybody that try to argue that. But he's gonna be pissed off too because I'm pretty sure he felt like he was a first round corner.
Yeah, he lost out on a lot of money too. Like that.
He did, but that should piss him off to the point where you get better. And you get better at the little things, the things that I was critical of. We're talking communication. You know what I'm saying? We're talking getting in that box and tackling, man. Not being scared to get in there and get messy. You know what I'm saying? That's one thing that Terrion Arnold was good at, getting messy. Getting messy, tackling, breaking up passes, fighting to the end of the play, trying to knock the ball out, man. That's what Terrion Arnold did, and that's what Kool-Aid really didn't do. So I hope this isn't just, I got drafted. Yay. I hope he's like, nah, man, I ain't go as high as I wanted. I'm going to make this money up at some point. So hopefully he can do that. So, but yeah, man, I think the Patriots had a good draft too, man. I think you got the quarterback that you used to, because I don't feel like they would have done Jaden Daniels really that good. I don't think they would have treated him the way that they needed to treat him. Even though, you're starting off with a new coach, man, the same guy is still at the top of the pyramid, and that's Robert Kraft. So I think there's a hierarchy and a way that he wants his quarterback to play. And I feel like Drake May fits exactly what he wants to do. And it's a good pick, man. I think I said it in the little stream we had with college football dogs, man. Like I think that's just what he wanted to do. This was a perfect situation. I think it was either going to be him or a lineman, or they might have traded the pick. But I think they got the guy they wanted, man, and it's gonna work. It's gonna work because, like I said, you're in a system that you're gonna be able to flourish in. You're not gonna have to do too much because even Mac Jones flourished in that, and that really wasn't his fault. It was more so coaching, in my
Play
opinion.
calling.
Yeah, so hopefully they do right by Drake May that they didn't do with Mac Jones, man. So we'll see. I don't know. But I think they both had good drafts, man. I would give them both B's because they both hit on what they needed to do, man. Like I can't really say an A because an A means that you hit on everything. And you
Mm-hmm.
don't know. You don't know what you hit on because you could bust on your first round pick and then hit on everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I really hate giving drafts an A because you really don't know. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Because your undrafted class, I've seen undrafted classes be better than your drafted class. You just signing, you're signing people. Uh oh, He left the thing, man. He'll be back in here, but I'll finish my thought, man. Like I said, the Saints and the Patriots had a really good draft, man. So, like I said, man, we wait to see if Brandon can get back into this thing, man. But if you can't get back in this thing, let's see. We start off with this, man. Y'all know the drill. The Ravens, dog. So let's get into this Ravens draft, man. While Brandon get back in here, man. All right, man. So my Ravens was picking in the first round with a 30th pick, man. Um, great draft in my opinion. We hit on offensive line. We hit on outside linebacker, man. We got some receiving weapons. The secondary, uh, gosh, really good addition, man. Like I said, I'm excited about Nate Wiggins, man. Um, I think he's gonna be a stud, man. Now, I was thinking Kool-Aid. I was thinking Kool-Aid at 30. But Nate Wiggins with the 4.240, man, that right there allows you to be a little bit more aggressive, man. So that's really what I'm looking forward to, man. Um, so like that's what I'm looking forward to for my Ravens, man. To really stack that cornerback there. I think Marcus Peters losing him a couple years ago. I feel like him and Marlon Humphrey had a ooh, that was like a chef's kiss duo, man. You had one guy who flashed and dashed, and then you had another guy who was just really about his business and trash talking, man. I like both of them, man. They played with a nastiness, man. So I really think Marlon Humphrey and Nate Wiggins are gonna be really good. A surprising pickup, man, was Devin Leary, man. Now I don't expect him to be like an impact player, man. But having another quarterback in there, man, uh, it's gonna be good, man. The safety from Purdue, I really like him a lot, man. I like him a lot. Um, I think he's gonna serve a lot of good on special teams, which is something you always need. You always need depth on special teams, man. I think he's gonna be good, man. So, but yeah, man, that's my take on the Ravens, man. Just trying to finish this thing up, man. But let me see. Brandon having technical difficulties, man. Let me see. Uh, yeah, um, but like I said, man, it's been a good show. Like I said, Brandon is having technical difficulties, but um, like I said, I appreciate everybody who watched along with this show, man. Get in that comment box, give us a like and subscribe on all the platforms. We talking uh, Facebook, we talking YouTube, we talking Twitch, we talking X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of it, man. Follow us on everything, man. Follow us on everything, man. Give us that feedback, man. Give us that feedback, and we'll go from there, man. But like I said, we appreciate everybody that joined and watched us. and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.